shocking how the time flies. Can you imagine it's been 16 years since they started making this car back in 2007? And countless reviews have already been made, so I won't be telling you anything new. But we all have so much love for this car, and it's always a great pleasure to have an extra content with the good music and video shots, just simply showcasing the sheer beauty of this BMW M3 E92. I do notice that each and every new M car is met with criticism simply for not being the car before it, whether in terms of gearbox shifting speed, engine setup or handling. We all tend to look back at the older cars with a rose picture we paint in our heads. So rather than me moaning about E92 being a true M car, let's see if this almost 2-decade-old BMW any good today. Well, I think it can still hold its own. It definitely offers great performance and acceleration dynamic, but it might not surprise anyone these days. With 414 brake horsepower, it does 0 to 60 in about 4.6 seconds, which, don't get me wrong, feels fast, but compared to the crazy numbers in modern cars, it might seem average. I mean, there are Chinese hybrid cars and Teslas out there pushing over 1,000 brake horsepower with much better handling and acceleration under 2 seconds. But to be fair, it's kinda silly to compare them. Different eras, different technologies. Just for the sake of mentioning, the ME90 and E92 model range were the first and the last cars to be fitted with a V8 engine. No new information for you here, but what had me scratching my head is why this engine, known and loved and receiving nominations for 4 years straight, only did its thing for one car generation. Turns out the answer is way simpler than I thought. Back in the mid-2000s, BMW M division wasn't as open to the idea of turbocharging as it is today. With the 6-cylinder engine of its predecessor maxed out in terms of performance, and the competitive pressure from the Mercedes were pushing BMW for radical solutions. During this period, BMW had already introduced the impressive 10-cylinder engine in the M5, so the idea was simple. They just chopped 2 cylinders off the M5 V10 engine, giving the birth to the M3's S65 4-litre V8. Of course, turbo technology improved significantly in the years between the E92 and the next F80 M3, so the decision to switch to turbocharging gets less controversial for the BMW. And that's pretty much the story of the first and the last naturally aspirated V8 engine made by BMW. The E92 is that cool, confident bloke who doesn't feel the need to show off. Even next to a regular 3 Series, you'll spot the differences, but they are more like classy extras than bold statements. Even with its sleek curves, bonnet hump and widened wheel arches, the M3 doesn't need to scream about its performance. It can keep a low profile when needed. And indeed, M3 looks might closely resemble with 3 Series, but don't be fooled by it. Following tradition, M cars share little with the regular coupes. Cars have a minimum of common body panels, so trying to fit the M3 hood onto your regular 3 Series won't work. The M3's body is longer and wider by a whole 39mm because of the arches. I personally believe that all the attention around the E92 comes from its simplicity. It's not overloaded with the fancy stuff you find in newer models. It's a true Spartan car stripped down to the basics, which makes it perfect for tearing up the streets. And because it's so raw, it really stirs up those emotions. You don't have to constantly worry about damaging the paint or leaving the burnt tire on the side arches. What really fuels the fire is that I know several folks who had newer M models, but they successfully sold them for the older V8 and couldn't be happier. When you become serious about racing, there is no need for a stylish large display. Keeping it raw is just fine. The M3's interior is seriously cold. It's always that racing minimalism vibe. Well, there has always been simplicity in BMW saloons, with the exception of the latest line of M cars. So it is noticeable that the dashboard transformed into the straight line, breaking the tradition of the driver-oriented dashboards present in previous M3s. So the control panels, well, it's both empty and well informative. The steering wheel is quite grippy. Here we clearly see the potential for those chunky steering wheels in the future, and the DCT lever, that's when the ergonomics beats the style. It may not win in looks, but feels absolutely perfect in a hand. The E92 chassis gained quite a reputation for its remarkable handling. With a hydraulic steering system and that famous 50-50 weight ratio, it feels like driving a high-performance go-kart. Even in the comfort suspension mode, there is hardly any noticeable body lean. The front end responds sharply and goes wherever you direct it, but you have to be seriously cautious about the rear, especially in chilly conditions that we're in today. As to the driver, it gives you so much confidence to really push the limits. Behind the wheel you get the superhero effect, completely in control, believing you can overtake just in the nick of time or take that corner at 80 miles per hour. The traction control system provides some safety, but if you forgot to turn it back on after the parking lot donuts, things could take a serious turn for the worse. I'm not sure we can even get close to good grip for a decent acceleration today. Still got some times in that weather, so it's pretty dicey trying to push it to the red line above 8,000 RPM. It's truly fascinating how a naturally aspirated engine can rev so high. Can't even get past half the revs, it's just constantly struggling for traction. The E92 tends to always end up as a project car, changing hands a couple of times, with each owner tweaks or upgrades it a little bit. Then the new owner comes along, we're on a mission to restore it back to the stock condition, aiming for a long-term relationship. Fast forward a bit and the car receives minor tweaks or full-on racetrack makeover. Rinse and repeat. Sadly, all that tuning doesn't quite boost the car's value like the money thrown at it. Absolutely great car. That enormously loud screaming sound of naturally aspirated V8 and the pure driving experience sets it apart in a league of its own. And most certainly, as the years go, its rarity and unique style will only enhance its position as a collector's classic. Give it another 10 years and they will become a distinct breed. A third of them will face the harsh realities of accidents and end up in a scrapyard. The remaining ones will find themselves tucked away in the garages of those individuals who foresaw their exponential rise in value. So it is definitely the right time to go and get yourself one.